Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, canine behaviourist at Good Doggy. So if you check the internet for advice about any kind of behaviour problem, you will find a selection of conflicting dog behaviour advice. And it's just for that reason that I decided to do this series of videos which basically identify one problem and 3 different kinds of solutions. With separation anxiety, you'll find the most common piece of advice is to build up time and add more stimulation, more toys or more distractions, something like that. So I'm going to talk about 3 different dogs, Penny, Juna and Flo. We're going to talk about them, the problems, the symptoms, the way that their behaviour is showing, and the different ways that I would go about trying to solve those, the different kind of approaches that I might take. And we're going to see how the standard internet advice of building up time might have applied to them or not. So the first thing that we're going to do is when I meet a dog is I want to address the needs and the goals of the behaviour. So when we're looking at the dog, we're looking to find out what is the underlying cause of the behaviour, what is the goal of it, what is it trying to achieve, and I need to make sure that we address both of these things in order to properly solve the problem. So let's talk about Penny first. Penny is an 8-month-old Staffy. She loves life like all Staffies does. She loves people. She's a proper wiggly little fab little girl. But she cries and scratches and chews at doors. And she's been doing this since she's a puppy. She used to mouth a lot when she was little. And she used to do a lot of jumping up, grabbing at sleeves, grabbing at the lead, grabbing at trousers, that kind of thing. So when she was little, her owners introduced to her a slow feeder to try and help with that. They moved her into a crate a few weeks ago, but she's now biting at her crate door when she's left alone. She's cut her mouth doing this, which is the trigger for them getting help because they realise now that she's actually potentially going to hurt herself. She doesn't get left alone on her own very much. She's quite lucky that they have routines which allow them to be at home or somebody at home most of the time with her. So she's not left on her own very much, and they've made a big effort recently to not leave her at all because they're so worried about her. For her, the behaviour starts as soon as they leave. So as soon as her owner gets up ready to go and she's already feeling anxious, she's crying as soon as that door shuts, and it continues the whole time they're gone. As a part of her assessment, we talked about her walk, and we discovered that she also pulls and bites on her lead. And sometimes she also refuses to walk in a certain direction. The biting at the lead and pulling at the lead was a much bigger problem when she was younger, but it's got a little bit better recently. But this refusal to walk in a certain direction has started more recently. So this is something that's a bit more new. Her owner wasn't worried about it, but we talked about this a lot because this kind of thing happens a lot and is connected to separation anxiety. So this is a related behaviour. Her owner wasn't worried about it. She thought it was a different thing, but it's actually part of the same problem. I'm going to talk about related behaviours in another video another time because that's a big, big topic. But for now, we just know it's the same behaviour. The jumping up and mouthing is also very similar. So what have we identified in her? She has a problem with barriers in particular. Which is basically the crate door is a barrier, other doors are barriers, skirting boards are barriers around the door frames and things, leads, trousers, her owner moving and not taking her where she wants to go is a barrier, and this is coming out as frustration. So for her, the need that is not being fulfilled here, she has anxiety, she's feeling trapped, and these barriers are making her feel unsafe. Her goal is more choice. Okay, that is Penny, our frustrated Staffy. Now let's talk about Juna. Juna is a 2-year-old Collie cross dog. She is a busy Collie. She is just as typical as they come. The family got Juna as a puppy. She has now 3 long walks a day. She has got scheduled enrichment, daily training sessions, and she goes to different kinds of training clubs twice a week. They have increased this over the last 2 years gradually because what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep up with her. Their feeling is that she needs more enrichment, she needs more stimulation in order to try and tire her out a bit. And this is what people are telling her. You need to tire her out so that she can settle more, okay? Something else that Juna gets, she's constantly being trained and managed and monitored through the day, and she earns all of her food through the day as treats and rewards. So her owner will have a bag of treats at the start of the day, and as you go through the day, that's her food, that's all of her daily food in that bag, and she's getting it fed to her as you go through the day. Juna does settle at night and in the car, and she's in the crate in both of those, and she sleeps soundly the whole time. They rarely leave her as well, and when they do, they leave her with lots of chews and puzzles, and she can cope for a few minutes. So unlike Penny, who is immediately anxious as soon as she realizes she's going to be on her own, Juna can manage about 5 or 10 minutes before she then starts to cry. And Juna is chewing the sofa, she's chewing cushions, she's digging in the sofa, and she's pulling up the carpet. So for Juna, the problem is overstimulation. We need to look at her sleep need and her food need. The goal of the behaviour is entertainment, stuff to do. Her brain is busy all the time and she's trying to calm it. She's staying busy, she's constantly busy. So we need to address that. We need to find a way to help her calm her brain so that she can rest, which is not currently what she's doing. And thirdly, we have Flo. Flo is a 3-year-old Cockapoo. She is a rescue dog and she's been rescued in the last few months. Apart from separation anxiety, she's a really settled girl. She's a lovely girl. She loves her new family. She's house trained. She knows lots of things. She can do all of her tricks. She's eating well. She walks well. She doesn't pull on her lead, and she loves to socialize and play with other dogs. But she panics when she thinks people might be about to leave her. She has quickly understood the words, things like see you later. She knows that picking up keys might lead to being on her own, putting on shoes without her being a part of that, lunch boxes. She's also associated lots of other things with people leaving her. She will then try to stop people from leaving when she notices one of these things, even if they're not actually going to leave her. So if the family had gone to pick up the car keys, but just hang them up, or had come in with the shoes, changed the shoes, anything like that would have just triggered that. So she's associated all of those steps with being on her own, and she will try to stop people from leaving as soon as she notices them. And this happens even when other people are at home. So unlike Juna and Penny, she will start to panic even if other members of the family are sitting with her. She could be lying on the sofa with somebody, and one of the teenage kids in the house might come down and pick up some keys to leave the house, and she will immediately go straight into panic. So she is very anxious about anybody leaving her. The need for her is safety and loneliness. She's attached. And the goal for her is she wants company. So all of her behaviour leads towards getting company and feeling safe. So that's what she's aiming for in these things. So the solutions. Now we know what's gone wrong. We can see that all 3 of these dogs have very different needs and goals. Although they've all been labelled as having separation anxiety, they're all really, really different. So we need to make sure we first of all meet the needs and the goals, but we're going to try and meet them now in a different way so that we can help them learn that they can be safe, which is the most important part. So let's go back to Penny again. So for Penny, if you remember, the problems for her were barriers and frustration. She is feeling trapped. She feels anxiety from those barriers. Barriers make her feel unsafe. Her goal is more choice. So goals and needs first. We need to get rid of the slow feeder. Slow feeders are a problem for dogs that have frustration. A slow feeder, all of those bumps and things that are inside the bowl, they all cause frustration. They are barriers. They are there to slow her down, and that is a barrier for her. So it stops her from doing what she wants to do. We need to address this choice on walks. For a long time, people have talked about how dogs that can do this is a battle of dominance. This is, we shouldn't let the dog win. We shouldn't let them just dictate to us, all that kind of stuff. This is all complete nonsense. Dogs, cats, people, everybody, we all need to feel that we have choices in our lives, and some more than others. And Penny really needs to feel sometimes that she has a little bit of autonomy over where she's going and what she's doing. So on those days where it's possible, let's just let her have a choice. If you're walking around the park and there's loads of different paths that you can go on, why not go to an area and just let her choose which way she wants to go? This for Penny will be a real game changer because she really needs to feel like she is making some choices. When she's out for a walk, she can smell things that we don't know about. So she knows the park in a different way to us. We can see where we need to go and, you know, what other dogs and people are there. She's sniffing things. She's sniffing all of the wildlife activity that happened last night. She knows where all of her friends were in the last hour, you know, so she can see so much different things than we can. So she's experiencing the park in a different way and she wants to choose which direction she's going. Maybe she smelt a friend of hers has walked past this particular part of the path and she just wants to go over and find them and see where they are, you know, and we're dragging her off the other way. So that's where this frustration is coming. We can give her a choice in other ways as well. So we could give her a choice of treats. So something that they used to do with her in the afternoon, she would sit there and get a little chew treat. So get a selection of different chews and give her a choice. Let her pick the one that she really wants. Again, this helps her feel like she has some choices. Really important, we're going to teach her a recall so she can have some free time to explore. See earlier when she wanted to follow that scent and see where a friend had gone, if Penny had been able to get off her lead, then she would have been able to follow that scent, she would have been able to see where a friend had gone, and you wouldn't have had this battle over the lead in the first place. A dog with a good recall can explore their environment much more deeply than one, even on a long lead. So long leads aren't a good solution. They're a great training tool, but your aim when you're using a long line should be really to try and get your dog to a point where they can get off the lead and see their environment for themselves and in their own way without us getting in the way. So this was a problem before the barrier. She wanted to go one way, we wanted to go the other way. The lead got tight and there was the barrier and there's where the frustration started to kick in. So that's a huge thing we can relieve her of just by allowing her to get off of her lead so that she could just follow that scent a little while and we can be confident and happy and safe knowing that she can't get into trouble, because if she starts to go too far, we can just do a recall and we can encourage her to go somewhere else. And we can play some little games in the park and teach her how to find different scents and things like that. So teaching a recall is a huge game changer for dogs with frustration. We're going to lose the crate. We can see that that's been dangerous for her. And I can understand why they were using the crate, because they were hoping to keep her safe. But this is an even bigger barrier than the door frames that she was choosing before. And we're not going to close doors on her anymore either. So whenever she gets left on her own and she's going to be spending time by herself, now she has got some freedom to move around the house. This is a risky time for people. They feel very, very anxious about this because the dog has previously chewed door frames and all that kind of stuff, and they've hurt themselves in a crate. So the concern at this point for Penny's family will be that she's going to go around the house and start just chewing everything everywhere. And you know, while it was bad before, at least it was in the same place. But now it could just be everywhere. So we're not just going to just open all the doors, teach her a recall and say, this is fine, we have won the battle, because we haven't yet. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get a camera set up for her so that she can be watched. And her family then will be leaving her on her own for short periods of time to start with. We'll see what she can cope with all the doors open. Probably she can cope with maybe up to a minute. But when you're watching on the camera, you can test this so you can see what's happening. And you can use that camera now as a tool to see how she's coping and see what she's doing. And you can start to then build up time from there. With this, I would suggest practicing this every single day. And every couple of days, if you think she's making progress, you're doubling the time. So if you started with a minute on Monday, and Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, that worked really well. On Thursday, double that to 2 minutes. And if you think on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all went really well, Sunday, double that to 4 minutes. So you're just going to be increasing this time gradually, but always watching on the camera, and you're always ready to come back in until you've reached a reasonable amount of time. Don't go very far. Go sit in your car, go sit in the back garden, go up the street, and just watch it on your phone so that you can be sure that she's absolutely fine and she's not going to hurt herself or do any damage to anybody else. So that's Penny. Juna. So for Juna, if you remember, Juna was the collie. She is overstimulated. Her need was sleep. She needed to find that calm in her brain. Her goal with her behavior was to use up that excess brain energy. So again, we'll work on that first. So the first place to start is to build up no stimulation time. So you're not going to even leave the house at this point. You're going to be sitting with her. And you're going to basically just clear everything away that might be stimulating. So we're not going to have any of these, any enrichment toys, any other toys, no chews. All of that kind of stuff is going to go away. You're going to choose a time when you're probably not going to get disturbed. So don't try and do this when the kids are due in from school, or if the postman is probably on his way. Most of us don't really know our postman's routine anymore, but if you did, then avoid those kinds of times. So you can be sure you're going to have a nice quiet period, and you're going to start really, really small and just build up the time that she's without stimulation, so that her brain can just start to get used to having nothing there to keep her going. Because really that's all it is. We feel like what we're doing is using up this brain energy, but we're actually creating it because we are giving something to her to do constantly. So with ourselves, sometimes just sitting down, removing distractions, that has a very meditative, calming influence on us, and it will do on her, but we need to build up slowly. You can't just take everything away and expect her to be okay for an hour with no stuff. We need to just build this up so that she doesn't completely freak out. Something else we can do to really help her out is include this as a part of a walk routine. So we can try and make sure that we've ticked some boxes before we expect her to go without anything. So we'll take her for a nice walk. We'll do an enrichment activity on that walk. When she comes home, we'll give her a little bit of a snack, and then we'll take all the toys away, and then we'll let her have that kind of that quiet downtime that we're going to start really small and build up on. Something else we're going to do is we're going to stop drip feeding her through the day, and we're going to give her proper meals, 2 proper meals a day with some treats that she can earn when she's doing her training or an enrichment activity or something like that. Nothing wrong with slow feeders for her. There's nothing wrong with enrichment toys, with puzzle toys and earning food. But we need to make sure that only a very small amount of her daily ration comes to her that way, that actually the majority of her food comes in these 2 big meals. And the reason for this is that when you don't get a full tummy, the body does not signal to the brain that you've had enough food. So even if you've had it throughout the day and it's been coming and going, physically you've had enough calories to survive, your body has been has received enough nutrition, it's got everything that it needs to survive that way. But the brain hasn't been triggered to stop hunting officially. So in a dog, they go from this kind of feast and famine kind of situation. So they will get very, very hungry, then they go hunting, they catch something, they fill their stomach up, really fill it up so they get that real full tummy feeling. When they get the full tummy feeling, the brain says, that's it, we've had a successful hunt, we can stop now. And that triggers rest and digest mode. So this is really, really important, because if you just drip feed throughout the day, you never get the full tummy feeling. The brain is never told to stop, and therefore the body just keeps on going. So basically your dog is kind of in this almost this fight and flight mode all day long. Adrenaline is going, they are constantly looking for food. And that doesn't really suit dogs physically. They need to have that full tummy so that they can go to rest. And specifically here, she really does need to have that rest mode triggered so that her brain can settle and she can just relax. So that will be really helpful for her. Once this routine has started to kick in at home, then and she can manage maybe 30 minutes without worrying about having nothing to do. She's starting to find this routine of going walk, enrichment, snack, settle. Is really working for her, and she's starting to settle for longer and longer periods. If you can get to about half an hour where she's quite settled, then you can actually start leaving the house, leaving the room, and eventually these steps, the walk, enrichment, snack, lever, will then start enabling you to leave her at home by herself, because she's already learned how to be calm. Then we just use that exact same sequence. I've done a video before on behavior sequences, so check that out, because that goes into that in a little bit more detail. But essentially that routine then can be reapplied here. Originally it allowed you to sit with her calmly and quietly, but now you can start using it when you actually go out and leave her. So you'll just quick fire through the steps that you did when you were in the house. You'll start small and you'll build up very, very quickly, because she already knows what to do, and it's just really just applying this principle to that. I really hope you're getting lots of useful hints and tips and ideas from watching the videos here on my YouTube channel. Behavior training, though, is a complex thing, and there are so many variables and options and different ways to approach things. And sometimes working on it alone can feel quite lonely and frustrating at times. Sometimes you'll question whether you're doing the right thing, or whether you might even be making things worse. If this is you, don't worry, I'm here for you. Privately, I can guide you through and support you through the process wherever you are. We'll start with an assessment session where I'll get to know your dog. I'll get to learn what makes him tick, any history. We'll learn about the behaviours you need help with. And then once we've figured out what's gone wrong and what techniques will suit him best, we'll make a plan just for him. Then we'll follow up with a series of private sessions where we'll address the root cause, work on related behaviours, boost resilience, and build on the behaviour training plan together until you have something that is working for you both. If that's something that's of interest to you, please check out the information on this video for details about how to get in touch and how to find out more about how I can navigate you through this process. So Flo, finally, our Cockapoo, our rescue dog, she was anxious about being left alone. So her needs were quite simple. She needed safety and she needed company. She was lonely. Her goal was to feel safe. So we made a list of all of Flo's triggers. If you remember anything that might have been connected to people leaving her was a trigger for her. So we'll make a list of all of those. And then we made a new very strict routine that ended in safety. And we applied that to something that she might cope with. So for her, walking towards the door and coming back again was something she could cope with fairly easily. She was anxious at the start, a little tiny bit, just out of her comfort zone, but she was coping okay. So that's what we started with. So we saw all of the things that she was triggered by. We excluded as many of them as possible and changed what we couldn't exclude and added some new stuff. So when you're basically changing a routine and you want to add some new things into there, you want to add enough in there that makes it feel really different. So for example, putting your shoes on in a different place. So quite often we'll get our shoes, maybe we'll go sit in the chair and put them on. And maybe we do that at the end of the leaving routine. So we could perhaps, instead of doing that, we could pick them up at the beginning of the routine and just carry them around with us and walk out the door and put them on the step. And that's not very convenient in the first place, but this is really about teaching her a whole new routine that she can trust in. So this feels different. She's not used to you carrying them around. She'll see you pick the shoes up and she'll be like, oh. But as soon as you do something different after that, then you can switch back to the old thing. And if you do enough different things in here and include them inside her routine, which you've changed, then she will start to build up a new sequence of behaviour. So the old sequence led to people leaving her. So they picked the shoes up, went to the chair, put them on. Already she's panicking because they're going to leave. And then they did. Maybe people put the remote control in the drawer, they turn the TV off, or they put the radio on. So those kinds of things we can change. So if you normally put the radio on, do the TV. If you normally put the remote control in the drawer, then put it in the kitchen. Things like that are just some ideas. You can come up with your own. A common thing that I do is I ask people to keep a separate blanket that you don't normally use in a cupboard that you can fetch for her during that routine. So this is something you've not done before. So for her, this will feel very new and very different. So it's a part of your routine. Maybe you pick your shoes up, you're walking around, you've put the telly on, not the radio, you put the remote in the kitchen, and now you're going to go to the cupboard, you're going to get the blanket out and you're going to go and put it perhaps on top of her bed or somewhere else on the side of the sofa where she likes to sleep or something like that. So this is different. This blanket has come out and it's been put there. So make up your little sequence. You're not going to leave the house though at this stage. Maybe you just walk to the door and then you go back and then you just undo it all. So in this sequence, loneliness has not been triggered. She still feels safe. That's the important thing. That was the goal. She needed to feel safe. So as long as we can always make sure she feels safe at the end of this routine, then we can add stuff into the middle. As you know, we can add stuff into the middle of a sequence of behaviors and stretch the middle part out. As long as most of it remains the same, then it will have the same effect. Right, so we addressed all of our triggers. We made a new routine, we wrote it down, and we locked that in, because what's important is that this new routine is exactly the same every single time. The more precise we are with this, the quicker she will learn what this new routine means. She will learn to trust it. That's the important thing. So we've done all of this, we've got our routine. And you'll start wherever you normally are when you want to leave. So let's just say maybe you're watching TV before you decide to go out, or you're sitting in the kitchen at the table, perhaps just having your breakfast or whatever it is. So identify your normal starting spot, and you're going to run through the steps in forwards order until you get to the door handle, and then you're going to reverse them all. So this is how it looks like. Step 1, put the radio on. Step 2, fetch the keys. Step 3, get your blanket from your cupboard. That's new. Step 4, put your shoes on. Maybe that's new, out of order. Put your coat on. Then you go to take her and get her to sit on her bed, throw a treat down for her, say back in a mo. You're going to walk to the door handle, touch it, and then you're going to undo all these steps. So maybe instead of saying back in a mo, you go, I'm back. Then if the treat's still there, pick it up. Then she's already moved from her bed, so we can go to the next step, which is take your coat off, then take your shoes off, then put the blanket back in the cupboard, put the keys away, turn the radio off. So you've gone step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then touch the handle, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, back to the chair that you started at. The important thing here is that you repeat this. And I always say, if you've got time, do this as often as you can, but 5 times in a row is the minimum. This is the magic number, because the first time she'll be really a bit kind of confused and anxious. The second time she'll start to figure out what you're doing. The third and fourth time she'll start to relax. And by the 5th time, she'll be just shrug this off as being boring. This is not relevant to her. And that's where that feeling of safety will kick in these practice sessions. So we want her to feel like this is a bit of a game, but not a very fun one. We don't want her to get excited either. And we're going to repeat that 5 times today. And then you're going to do it 5 times tomorrow and 5 times the day after. And every couple of days that you think that she's doing really well, you can add something into the middle of that. So when you started, you just put your hand on the door handle, and then you did all steps 8 to 1 again. What about this time if you just turn the handle and just let the door crack open a bit, then close it? In a couple of days' time, if she's good with that, you could open the door wide and then close it. And then maybe you can step forward and back, and you're adding micro steps into the middle, but not too quickly that she starts to panic. We want to make sure that every single time she sees you go through these first steps, she knows she's going to be safe, so she stops worrying about it. So this is really important. And this is where we'll start with her. Slow and steady, win the race for her. And eventually, you'll start to be able to build up time. Just like we did before, we'll go outside for a second, then 2 seconds, then 5 seconds, then 10 seconds. And 10 seconds can quickly become 30. 30 becomes a minute can become 5 minutes. And you're just going to start to really stretch this time out. But the more time you spend on these early stages, frustrating and annoying as they are, then the more success you'll have later on. So let's look back at all of these dogs. Not one of them would have benefited from just building up more time and adding more stuff, especially not Juna. She would have got much worse. All that extra stuff and extra time would have just exacerbated the problem. Penny would have got stressed out and probably would have done a much worse injury to herself than just cut her mouth. Flo may have benefited, but as most of the people will start building up time from say 5 or 10 minutes or even 20 minutes and hoping they're just going to get used to it, this would never have worked for her. We needed to rewind so far back and start working on the tiniest little triggers. Before we even left the room, she was already panicking, even just at the idea that somebody might pick up their shoes or their keys. So there's no good trying to leave her for 10 minutes because she's never going to realize she was okay. As with all these dogs, all they wanted to do was to feel safe, and they're all different ways. So just simply starting to build up time would never have worked for all of these dogs. And I hope that if that's something that you've tried because you've seen it on the internet and it didn't work, that actually what you've got from this video is that there's still loads of hope, because there's loads of other stuff that we can do and you can do to help your dog before you even get to that stage. So just because building up time didn't work doesn't mean your dog can't learn to be safe and comfortable and relaxed when they're by themselves. Hopefully that's helped give you a little bit of inspiration and give you a few suggestions. Maybe perhaps you've seen your dog reflected in Penny, Juna or Flo, and you can take a few tips from that. And if you've got any questions, obviously please leave them in the comments, and if you need me to help you more, then get in touch and we'll see what we can do together. Bye for now.